to each board member, and it is my, I think it's in the best interest of the board to have a transition of leadership. As most of you all know, I've chosen not to seek reelection, and so I think for me and Ms. Bates, current president and vice president, it would be good to have new leadership so we can help assist in this transition as we go through this next term. So at this point, I need a nomination for president of the board.
Mr. President, it is my privilege to nominate Brian Brooks to be president for the next school year.
All right. I have a motion to nominate Brian Brooks as president of the board. I need a second. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations, Mr. Brooks. You are now president. I'll get up and sit in your seat. All right. Leave the gavel. Let me get my stuff out your way. Get my nameplate.
You get yours too, Mr. Brooks.
Don't clap yet. We'll probably mess it up. I'm probably gonna mess something up. I appreciate it. So now we need a motion for a vice president, correct?
Mr. President, it is my privilege to nominate Heath Jones to be vice president for the 23-24 school year.
I'll make a motion.
I did.
Make a second.
There you go.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Congratulations, Mr. Jones.
Mr. Vice President, congratulations.
Before we start, I will say that it's been a delight to serve as your president. I've been blessed to serve in leadership on this board for the last 4.5 years, and under this leadership, we've served well together, and I'm thankful for all of you all. I know Ms. Bates as well. She speaks. She wanted me to convey that she's thankful to serve as well. So thank you all for allowing me to serve as your president.
I appreciate you, sir. I've always called you big brother on the board, so don't think I'm not gonna be calling you about a lot of stuff.
Absolutely. Feel free. Feel free.
And congratulations to you, Mr. Jones. And I think this board works well together, so we'll keep moving forward.
That we will.
Now what?
Mr. President, we have a couple of presentations this evening,
Okay.
and I'd like to start with the Schools Foundation.
We're here tonight to present a check to the Madison County Schools for $38,612.35. And that's from our public schools for schools for back to school. So that's one of our public partners.
Mr. President, we have a great relationship with the Schools Foundation. We appreciate all their support and what we do in the school system, and just wanted to welcome you. She's our new executive director, and welcome, and we look forward to continuing a great relationship with you and the Schools Foundation.
I appreciate it. I've had a very warm welcome, and it's been wonderful. Thank you so much.
All right, you have a great evening.
You
Thanks
too.
again.
Thanks, appreciate you.
Our next presentation is Senator Gavan is here. Senator, would you like to?
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And, we've got some good news, bad news. I guess it's overall good news. I guess it's disappointing news because I hoped it'd be more. But we will have a grant coming both to my district and Representative Witt's district for the Madison County Schools from the Lieutenant Governor's program of $2.2 million that we wanted more. But hey, that's $2.2 million we didn't have before, so that's some good news. I got a little special dispensation this year that y'all can't tell anybody else about because I'll get in trouble. But I follow the pattern that were set forth by requests from prior superintendents from both Huntsville City Schools and Madison County Schools, and those are the only two school districts that I represent in District 7, of how they wanted some discretionary funds that we have each year that's normally in the $130,000 range for senators and be a third of that because there's 3 House members for every senator, so I think it's a third of that for the House members. And what typically is done there is I used to give, and my predecessor used to give $2,000 to each school in the district. And because some of the schools are, and I say give to the schools, give to the principals for discretionary spending at those schools. And what my predecessor did and what I do is also we plussed up the Madison County Career Academy because we both appreciate the work that they do in training our workforce. So I changed it up a little bit in that I give some money to schools that are not in my district. And just to be clear, this is not my money. It's just the money I get to decide how to spend. It's the people's money. And so, $3,000 for the principal at Hazel Green High School, and then $2,000 at all the other schools that are in my district, and including Sparkman, which is not in my district, but as I say, about half of, quote, my kids go there. And so I certainly, want to support the schools where my kids are going. And I've got a check here, so it's got a breakdown of all the amounts to the different schools. But we also have for the Career Technical Center, $19,000. Hopefully you can buy some good toys in there for the students to learn with. And because Rex Reynolds was setting up little kitties where he could then fund other things out of that he liked in cooperation with the superintendent, I decided to start doing that. Since they wouldn't let me get the money for a new Hazel Green High School, they did give me a little consolation prize. So I've got $360,000 that's going to be in the kitty here for Madison County Schools. So I've got a check for a total of $400,000 for Madison County School System.
Wow.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Just being at home. Senator, thank you so much for that gift. We will put it to good use for you, sir.
Thank you.
Representative Witt, would you like to come up in a few words, sir? Representative Witt and I have,
If this is a point of personal privilege, I was able to do similar things here recently for the school system. As you know, I represent Madison and Limestone County and a variety of schools, but My check's a little smaller, but I want it in the bank where we could draw interest, but it was for $100,000. So anyway, certainly glad to support our school system. Thank you.
Representative Witt, if we can get a picture too. Representative Witt has always been a great partner to our school system, has always taken care of us, and we appreciate not only you and your service, but also lending us your wife for several years. We really appreciate her too. So if we can get a picture with you as well, sir?
Sure, thank you. We'll just have to take the check, but again, we're earning interest, right? Yeah, I'm ahead of the game.
Mr. President, along the same lines, I just want to make the board aware that Representative Reynolds has met with me already, and he has provided funds also for the schools to use, and the virtual school, the Career Technical Center, and a big project at Meridianville Middle School that we're working on there, and as well as Senator Schofield and Representative Horton. They had presentations for Owens Crossroads, New Hope, and New Hope High School at one of the football games. We had a presentation before the football game down there where they also were very generous in giving some money to our schools for them to use. So I wanted you to all be aware of them as well and what they've done for our district. We're very fortunate to have North Alabama legislators that care enough to invest in our school system, and we appreciate their efforts.
Definitely appreciated.
I was gonna save this for a district highlight, but Senator Gavan has already kind of broached the subject. I want to let you know, we have written 3 grants under the Lieutenant Governor's grant. We wrote one for McKee, we wrote one for lighting project at New Hope, and one lighting project at Sparkville. I got 3 responses back from Lieutenant Governor Ainsworth. The first 2 were rejections, that they did not award the grants for our 2 lighting projects. But the main one was, we did receive $2.2 million for the grant for the McKee Road project. So, you know, it was a max of 5 million, but we did receive 2.2. So we're really elated that we were able to get, you know, that 2.2 million. So that will go into the funds to help fund our McKee Road School. So that was some really excellent news. Pardon me? Very, yeah. All right, district highlights. At this point, Mr. President, any districts that have some news that they'd like to share about what's happening in their district?
Nathan, you
I will say I did attend the Veterans Day program at Meridianville Middle School last week. Was well done. Really good message, and the kids were participatory. It was good to see our veterans honored in that way. A couple of weeks ago, Ms. Bates and I went to Phoenix Rehabilitation Services. We met with their executive staff to see was there any possibility of utilizing Phoenix services, which it was really fascinating going through their facility, didn't realize the reach they had in our community, and it was just a really good meeting with the executives at Phoenix. Mr. Sheldon Plant facilitated us around, and I told him I would get with the superintendent and we'd discuss and see if there's potential opportunities where we could work with Phoenix. There's really good programs, really good operation over there. So that's all the highlights I have.
Anybody else got anything?
I'll keep mine brief. Monrovia Middle Schools successfully ended their football and volleyball seasons. They had a great Veterans Day program that was put on by Mr. Lambert, and now we're starting basketball. Of course, we've done tryouts for our spring sports, which consist of boys and girls soccer, softball, and baseball. Endeavor completed their Special Olympics, complete with a participation in Special Olympics program, complete with a pep rally. They've upgraded their outdoor plants and things like that. Had a fathers and daughters dance that was very successful, and also participated in the Green Power program. Monrovia Elementary School had a very nice Veterans Day ceremony, participated in Special Olympics and Green Day Power. And then Legacy also had a great special Veterans Day program, Special Olympics and Green Power. You know, one of the things that's happening now in all of our schools, and I think everybody involved in education knows this, we're making a transition through what I call the deadly month of November, because we have a lot of time off between now and the end of December, and we go on Christmas break, and we want to keep the kids focused on learning every minute we can, and final exams are coming up for high schools and other programs.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to apologize. I'm going to have to read from my phone. The Google Doc did not save on my iPad, so just bear with me. I'm going to get through this as quickly as I can. So last week, schools all across our district organized a series of events and activities to commemorate Veterans Day. Our students actively participated in creating heartfelt thank you cards, letters, and artwork, which are distributed to local veterans. We are proud to honor our veterans and grateful for their service. I would also like to take this opportunity to congratulate all of the Teacher of the Years across Madison County. It's an honor to be a part of that celebration on Monday. At Sparkman High School, Miss Lindsay Stevenson was their Teacher of the Year. I would also like to say congratulations to the competition band on their outstanding performance at the Bands of America Regional at Troy University. The band that was their class champion finished 4th overall in the finals against schools all over the Southeast. On October 28th, the Sparkman High School Indoor Percussion competed at Jacksonville State University and earned the Alabama Class 7A Percussion State Championship for the 5th consecutive year. So congratulations to them. At Sparkman 9th grade school, Miss Kelly Dice was their Teacher of the Year, and she was also the Madison County School System's District Secondary Teacher of the Year. At Sparkman Middle School, Miss Kayla Jefferson was their Teacher of the Year, 7th grade science teacher. At Harvest Elementary School, Miss Whitney Beck was their Teacher of the Year, 3rd grade. Madison Crossroads, Miss Christina Thurman was their Teacher of the Year. Madison Crossroads also received word in late October that the school has been named a 3rd time Blue Ribbon Lighthouse School. Their team will travel to Orlando for the national conference the week after next to be recognized. They also continue to engage in the community in multiple ways. Coffee with the Principal allows informal and open conversations about school topics and processes. This week, Madison Crossroads hosted their Gals and Pals dance, offering the girls in the school a chance to bring their dads and other important grown-ups to their first social event. Over 200 attended that event. Madison Crossroads Watchdog program is going strong with hundreds of volunteers, and some of the dads becoming a permanent fixture around the school. Also, earlier this week, it was announced that there will be a care closet coming to Madison Crossroads Elementary, sponsored by Bethlehem Baptist Church. So we really appreciate their partnership in supporting our students in Madison Crossroads. And that's all I have, Mr. President.
I was only able to go to one of the Veterans Day programs at Central, but I think they're great. It's to bring the veterans there, and it's the Central School did a good job. And both Madison County High School and New Hope girls, or their cheerleading, they both placed in the state. And so proud of them for that. But that's really all I've got right now.
Mr. President, as far as the district highlights, I have some updates for you. The first one is we currently have a principal and assistant principal and a couple of staff members in Washington, D.C. Mr. Evans is leaving first thing in the morning to fly out and fly back because Mount Carmel Elementary School has been given the distinction of being recognized as a national Blue Ribbon School. And so they are up there to receive their award from the U.S. Department of Education. So Mount Carmel is our next national Blue Ribbon. So, they're up there right now. Mr. Jones highlighted, our secondary teacher of the year, Ms. D. Our elementary teacher of the year is Faith Brandon Walker from Newmarket. Those are the two that will be moving forward, to represent our district at the state level in the competition moving forward. As far as, in the athletic realm, we have met with, the orthopedic center and sportsmed, and we had both of them do presentations. And what we're looking at is to see which agency can provide us with the best services overall for all of our schools. And after meeting with both of them, giving them ample time to do presentations and tell us what they could do, it looks like the orthopedic center is the one that's gonna be able to provide us with the most, including 3 trainers that will be specifically for our middle school athletics that will be dispersed across the county. So we'll have 3 that are specifically just for middle school. And so they will continue with that. So we will be transitioning to, after this year, and to TOC will have all of our athletic training needs. And so, you probably have seen the merger on television too, that TOC is now merged with Huntsville Hospital, so we have that back in as well. So, we brought all our principals in, we discussed it, we met with they were actually in the meeting with TOC and Sportsnet, heard the presentations, and the majority of the vote was for TOC. So, that's who we'll be progressing with, and you'll get an MOU as we get closer. We may even have them come in and do a presentation to the board over it. We wanted to let you know that that was coming. Mr. Brooks highlighted some cheer champions. We have quite a few across the district right now. So there's a lot of regional winners. One of the things Mr. Rogers has notified me of is that the UCA or UGA, the cheer association, have added days to their competition now, where they used to compete, they used to have a training day on Friday, and they would compete on Monday and Tuesday. So our teams would usually leave, Thursday, they'd be out Thursday, Friday, and Monday, which was what we had established for a 3-day maximum. Well, now they're competing Friday, there's training on, or there's practice rounds on Thursday for the big schools, then Friday for the smaller divisions, and then they actually compete on Saturday and Sunday, and they have all their championships on Monday night. So they've added another day, which means it's something that we're gonna have to talk about and discuss, because it's gonna require a 4th day for cheerleaders to be out. Mr. Rogers already discussed with our biggest one, how that would look, and they would be prepared to leave right after school on Wednesday. They're taking charter buses, so they would be leaving like after school ends on Wednesday, drive through the night, be there for their practices on Thursday morning, then they would start competing on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The smaller divisions would compete Saturday, Sunday, and then all the finals would be on Monday, so it's an extra day. So I wanted to put that on your radar, that our policy currently says they can only miss 3 days, but the way, if we're gonna allow them to go, it would require them to be out a 4th day, so it's gonna have to require a change, so I wanted to make sure you all were aware of that. We've wrapped up, as of this past week, Mr. Costanzo emailed me and advised me that we had 1,674 community members or parents answered the survey. We had 709 teachers. So what we did is we had communications send out another blast and ask them, good job so far, but let's try and, so we kept the survey open up through this Friday. So we'll close the survey off there, then AASB will gather all that information. Moving forward, the next step will be phase 3, which is for us to have a committee. And so, meeting with the staff, we discussed who would be the appropriate, and this would be the committee that would actually look at mission, vision, analyze the data, kind of figure out what the big pieces are that we would be actually trying to address. So what we were discussing is, having both of our teachers of the year, our elementary and our secondary, having the six SGA presidents from our high school, 3 APs. The reason we're not having principals is because principals will help us with lead the action teams that will actually help develop the steps moving forward for our plan from the committee. So it'll be 3 assistant principals, 1 from each level, elementary, middle, and high. 3 parents, from the 3 grade bands, elementary, middle, and high. 2 community members, 3 support directors, our 3 support directors, and our 2 certified directors. And then, you know, however how many board members you guys would think would be a good number to moving forward as far as board representation on the big committee as well. So that's what we're looking at for the large committee, where we'll analyze the data and try and come up with the mission and the vision moving forward and get those big pieces that the action teams will focus on moving forward. So that's phase 3. So that's where we're at with our strategic planning. The last thing that I have is that we have started our open gate. They've done training, and they have started putting those up and we're working out the bugs and we're working out the things. So I asked Dr. Minsky if he would give us just a brief update on where we're at with our open gate system and how things are going, so.
Yes, sir. So we have,
We have, we purchased 51 units. They're added to all of our schools at the present time. As Mr. Stevens mentioned, we're in the process of beginning the implementation. So we've been through the training last week. The schools are now putting them up, having students coming through them, utilizing them, setting them up, and options for parents and things to utilize. So expectation moving forward, we'll be using them as well as any visitors to our schools. It's been very positive. They're actually, after you get through the initial quick little setup with the app stuff, they're very, very simple to use. Very effective and feel very good about the process and protocol that we're putting in place. Right now, it's just a matter of, as they're using them, we're trying to perfect some of those protocols, just to make sure that things are flowing smoothly. Green High School was the first one they did the training date. First day, we finished up about 5 minutes after the initial bell. The next day, they'd already taken 8 minutes off the time of getting to you. So, feeling very good about it. Most of our schools will be starting something by tomorrow, if not at least Monday after Thanksgiving, so they will have their own testing. Several of our schools have worked with their staff, worked with their students, and done student assemblies to show them how they work and how students are supposed to go through them. They come to that process. Very pleased with them.
When do you expect for them to be deployed for athletic events?
The date that we have set right now for our final everything, we're using them 100% is December 1st. So they've already started using them. Some schools have already started them at athletic events to test them and check them out, see how they work. And kind of working the protocols.
Dr. Minsky's working on, once we have all the bugs worked out and we've gone through this and gotten it, we're gonna actually develop, the protocols will be written down so that we'll have the procedures, published and documented. But the other thing is that we're looking at having an opportunity to invite our legislators on November the 28th. Since Hazel Green's been up and running, we thought that, and the way we talked about what would be a good school, the Hazel Green has a wide opening that they can actually, be able to see the whole process. And so we're looking at having something for our legislators to come on out so they'll be able to see it in action and see how it's actually functioning. And that would be we're looking at Tuesday the 28th from like 7:30 to 7:45, but we'll get an invitation out on that as well. And then, and in the meantime, Mr. Watkins will be working a video and all to present to our media so that they can go ahead and get that out and let people know and have kind of more of a press release about it to the media as well. So that way, we want to make sure that people understand that this is a safety thing and this is a safety issue for us, and that we are looking at the best interest of keeping their kids and our staff members safe, and that we want this viewed as a positive and not a negative. And so trying to provide our media with a positive outline, positive light on this particular safety protocol. And from what we're hearing, we had very few parents reach out with any negativity, to the point that I believe I've seen 5 either calls or emails out of our entire district. And so that's phenomenal to have such a small amount with something this, you know, drastic of a change. But it seems to be very well received so far. Any questions on?
Mr. Kubic, when we do this in Hazel Green, I've had at least one legislator reach out to me, and Mr. Jones was there, and said that they'd like to have a get-together with our legislative delegation, much as Madison City and Huntsville City does. Could we somehow, and I don't want to impose upon Hazel Green, find a room for them to have a presentation so that they could also understand as a group what our priorities are? Like, you know, we need more help, as I recall, Ms. O'Bannon, for transportation in the upcoming budget and things like that. So we could have an interaction, not just on what's happening at Hazel Green, but an interaction what's happening throughout our very large and school system.
Well, we have talked about having a legislative breakfast where we actually talk about multiple
Yes.
things. This is the focus on this day is for the open gate system and the safety and security, but we are talking about having something, we're actually working through that right now, as to having more than just them come and watch this.
Okay, good.
But there is plans for a legislative breakfast before we go into session too.
Okay, thank you.
I want to say I appreciate everybody that does everything for safety. Appreciate the SROs and everybody that helps. Appreciate Dr. Minsky for everything he's done, and that's what we're looking forward to, is more safer schools, and that's what we're trying to go. And I appreciate it. But before we go any further, that I failed to mention the Madison County High School's volleyball team. They made it to the Final Four in the state volleyball tournaments, and we actually got to go watch the games at the Civic Center, and them girls can play. But that's all. I was going to mention that.
Mr. Kubic, just as a point of clarity, earlier you mentioned Mount Carmel. I believe you said Mount Carmel National Blue Ribbon School. They're going to Washington, D.C.
Yes, sir.
And there's some other schools that are going down. I think Mr. Jones mentioned going down to Orlando for Blue Ribbon Schools of Excellence. Is that correct as well? Those are 2 different distinct designations, correct? Just want to make sure there's a point of clarity on that.
Very much so, sir.
Okay.
The National Blue Ribbon of Excellence, that's down in Orlando, and that's where they strive to meet effective schools, and they bring them in and they have them work with the schools to improve the schools. The National Blue Ribbon is where there's only 5 of those in the state of Alabama for this year, and that is the pinnacle of it. You pretty much can't get a higher recognition than a National Blue Ribbon. That's the one that Buckhorn High School has achieved, Walnut Grove has achieved, and that's it. The only other one is now Mount Carmel. So we've had 3 in the history of Madison County Schools so far. So yes, this is an enormous award. Last weekend I was at the state board meeting where Dr. Mackey presented to Dr. Norton the state resolution recognizing them. We were all 5 of the schools were down there, so it was really a big deal, and she's just elated. And you know, Dr. Norton has followed this through, but I'd be remiss to say that, you know, there wasn't a lot of hard work done on the front end with the former principal. You know, Dr. Booth was there, and so there was a lot of hard work that went in prior to achieving this. So it's quite a feat. This is the pinnacle that everybody strives for as far as recognition for a school.
Gotcha. Very good. Thank you.
Okay, we're ready for our informational items. We have construction updates. Mr. Kizort?
Good evening, everybody. The last time we had a construction update was back in June, so some of this may look somewhat repetitive, but they may have been 60% or 70% at that time. So at the end, I'll open it up for any questions that I may not cover. I don't have everything on here. I can't. All right, so the Buckhorn High School roof, that job is complete. It's been inspected. That was what we called a partial roof, but it was several $1 million. You haven't seen it yet. As soon as we get all of our documentation back, I'll come to you with a change order to our benefit. It'll be $96,915 that we came in under the bid price. Madison County Elementary School roof, complete. That one's been inspected, and we're waiting on some final documentation on that job. That job, we will have a deduct on our change order as well of $30,102. And both of those will come to you, hopefully maybe by the next board meeting, next month anyway, for approval. Walnut Grove roof repairs, that's 100% complete now. Walnut Grove, the HVAC, we replaced some rooftop units there and updated those, and added some AC and heat to the corridors, which had been there for a while, but they had no heat or air conditioning in the corridors. All that's complete. Meridianville Middle School, safety upgrade, that's the front entrance, where we've changed that, and the road widening. All of that is 100% complete. Learning cottages, we have 4 over at Madison Crossroads, complete, and the one here at Pace, both of the pictures there represent those, 100% complete and inspected and approved by the state. Other capital projects, these are the ones that Snyder are currently working on. We have 5. We have Buckhorn High School HVAC, Central Office here, the Career Tech, Riverton Intermediate, and Sparkman. I'm saying they're all 98%. They're right there at the finish line. The Central Office here and the Career Tech has to be re-inspected by the state. That's Mr. Paul Gray. There's a DOAS. It's a direct outside air unit that's sitting out back. If it picks up smoke, it goes into alarm. It has to tell our fire alarm there's an issue. So they've got to come back. That's all active now, but we've got to get that inspected. And then some punch list and the T&B is testing and balancing. So once they get that, we get all of our paperwork, those should be wrapped up before the end of this year. Other capital projects, Monrovia Middle School athletic lighting, soccer, about 40%. They delivered the light poles and lights all out there. I would say it was November the 8th, if I remember right, 9th. They've got the bases in the ground, getting ready to set all that up. The electrical panel, I think, is scheduled mid-January. There's still some electrical components that are having delays, but this will be up off of the field and ready to go. And we're hoping to have this all finished, inspected, and turned on for the first soccer games. There you go. Thank you, sir. I was going to ask you because I knew you would know.
I also want to make sure everybody understands that this project was funded by donation.
Yes, that is correct. Where am I at? New Hope High School, athletic lighting for the practice field out there. That is with the electrical engineers now and is in design. The Pace building, it is with the architects being redesigned now. It's been sent off to DCM. We've made a few changes to try to meet all fire codes and trying to do that the most affordable and economical way, but make that building more functional for the staff and the students there and safe. Virtual school, we've got another area that we're planning to add to virtual, and that is being designed. Buckhorn Middle School, front entry redesign. We want to do something there similar to what we've done at the other schools, but Meridianville Middle School, so that we come in and we can still separate visitors from the staff until they've been processed through our Raptor system and through Open Gate. New Hope High School corridor, we've been making a mess. First part of the project there, they have to identify there's a gas line that runs underneath that building. There's storm drain, sewer, forced sewer, and water. And they say that the gas and domestic water, if it has anything to do with the sprinkling system, fire protection, it has to be encased. Well, they found one of them just over 11 feet deep. And so now we're getting it, we have DCM, we have a letter down to the Department of Construction Management. It's already encased in concrete, and we're trying to make sure that that will meet their code. So right now, it looks like there's a delay, but we're waiting on DCM's answer for that. Once they answer that, and we feel like it'll go favorably for us, they'll start putting the dirt back in it and compacting it, and then come on up and finish that project. That's been, oh, wait a minute. That's a good-looking guy right there. Did y'all see him? I'll go right back to him in just a minute. This project has been on the capital plan for quite some time, so it's exciting to finally get this going, and it'll create the safety that we're trying to get for the building to the gym and for the students to go back and forth at. Now I'll show you that good-looking guy again. McKee Road current site. That's it. It's a field. That's all that's out there right now, but wanted to show you that. Gave me an opportunity to take a selfie. So McKee Road site plan. That's 82 acres. That's what it's being designed, what is designed. It went out to bid last week for mass grading. We opened bids today at 3 p.m. You've got those results in front of you for your consideration and approval tonight. In the front, we've got some areas that are wetlands, but in the front, there's a 3.5 acre pond, which will be finished out with a liner in it, sod around it, fence for safety, but it'll give the school a nice appeal in the front. It keeps any of the flooding areas from bothering our neighbors, the streets, or anything else. We can keep it all on our campus. You'll see where the school sits there in the middle in the parking, the entry road, and we do have another road that we'll probably use for busing, and that goes out to Old Railroad Bed Road. So we can bring part of our traffic in on McKee and then part of it out off of Old Railroad. This is the school layout. We had our first design meeting today with the architects and all the team from electrical engineers, mechanical, landscaping, structural. This plan has been built in that similar forms 4 or 5 times. Legacy, Endeavor, Mount Carmel, Hazel Green Elementary, Moore's Mill of the latest. But this will be McKee, currently 4, 5, and 6. We took the courtyard out of the center, which is kind of, in some ideas, maybe mine, you don't want to plant anything in there because it's really hard to get back out, wasted area. If you'll notice, that whole area now is a competition gym for middle school. Has some locker, we don't have any showers, but we do have restrooms there. We've added, this is the front toward me, classrooms on the very front, if you want to call them the airplane wings or whatever you might want to call that. There are engines out on the front. And then the back to the right, just under the word McKee, is 7 classrooms added there. It's right down here somewhere. I have to walk around now. But currently, this is being in design. We will meet every 2 weeks, going through every phase of it. The architects, MVP, and the subcontract, or the other electrical engineers, all these guys, they've been through this, but what I enjoy about that process, we try to work out every problem now on paper before we get out there on the ground. We're hoping to get this package out for bid by May so that we can get ready to start building in the early summer. So that's where we're at on McKee Road. There's probably some other projects. We've got a lot going on, but other projects. But if there's something particular you would like to ask a question about, please ask me. I'll do my best to answer it now. Yes, sir. I can do that. Yeah. So, okay. All right. Very well. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Joseph. Ms. O'Bannon, fiscal year end update.
a PowerPoint in front of you if you want to follow along. I just wanted to share a few slides so you can see where we are at fiscal year end before you actually approve the financial statements tonight. So we'll get started. This is the balance sheet, of course. And if you'll notice, under the general fund type, this shows all of our fund types, but notice the unreserved fund balance for general operations at the bottom. You see the 47.8 million, that's our unreserved fund balance. And we're going to talk about that just a little bit more when I go over the summary report that you receive every month. Also notice just from this slide, the account groups. This is the only place you'll see the account groups, that far right column. And you'll see that this reports our long-term debt outstanding and our capital assets. This school system has $444 million in capital assets. So that's land improvements, building improvements, and capitalized equipment, which is anything over 5,000, and also the real property and the personal property is what I'm trying to say, and vehicles and buses. We also owe our debt for long-term debt, our bond issues and our Snyder projects, $145,889,127, if you'll see that. The last maturity for all of our bonds, if we didn't issue any more, is in 2040. So 16 years. But there's only 2 bond issues that mature in that time frame. So this is the operations or income statement. And in a second, we'll look at the summary statement, like I said, the next slide, that I send you each month that shows general fund and special revenue funds. But first, I want you to notice that in general fund, expenditures exceeded revenues in the amount of see that at the bottom? I don't have a pointer. $8,781,258.04. And that was planned because it's planned. We used some of our ending fund balance from last year, see the $61,781,000, in order to do some capital projects from local funds. Now, this does not include, I'm going to go over some of the capital projects that Mr. Kazort just covered as to how we're funding them. This does not include the monies we've set aside in the capital projects fund type for the McKee Road School. So, our ending fund balance is 50, I can't say, is that 53 million? Approximately 53 million or 53 million. So let's flip over to the next slide so you can see that. You're familiar with this summary report because you see it every month. So if you look at the bottom under fund equity for general operations, the 47 million again is the unreserved. We'll hold it for a moment and then we'll go to the next slide and talk about what that represents. And then the reserved. And the reserve is funds that have already been encumbered. We have 2 purchase orders out there for buses, and that's the majority of that. But for both the general fund, let's go back to the top for just a minute. For both the general fund and the special revenue fund type, remember special revenue fund types are federal money and our local school public funds. But we're in line with the budget. We've actually exceeded the budget in both revenues and expenditures, and they closely track. Looks really, really good. If you look at the year-to-date revenues versus the budget and the expenditures in both areas. So we did a great job with this for the year, and that's kudos to the support that I received from you, the board, Mr. Kubik as superintendent, as well as the departments that we serve, all the departments. Let's look at the 47.8 unreserved fund balance. This represents we're required by the state, for those that may not know, to have a 1-month reserve at all times. So we're actually setting at the end of the year, a 1-month operating reserve is 19.7 million. So that represents the 47.6.8 million represents almost 2.5 months of operating expenses. And that should say or 73 days. I think it says 4. But, and the way you calculate that, as the board members know, you take the total expenses up at the top, the $236 million for the year, divide it by 12, and that's the 19.7 million. That's representative of what it cost to operate the school system for 1 month. Now, it's a little skewed. If we didn't have those capital expenses in there that we knew we were going to use our excess reserve last year for some of those, it would run around 18 million. So it's a little high because of some of the capital expenses. But that's okay. That's what we used our reserve for, that we carried over, the excess. And the 30 days, it represents about, as I said, 73 days. So as I mentioned at our budget hearing, this is some of the areas of focus or financial concerns that we can address next year in 2024 with some of this excess. We're at 2.5 months, just like we did in fiscal year 2023. But we want to keep our reserve close to 2 months because of things like this, to cover costs that comes with the rapid growth that we're experiencing. For example, if we have to add a teacher somewhere, it's great to have the excess over the 1 month, is what I'm saying. We don't want to make a profit. School systems are not here to make a profit, but we want to make sure that we're financially stable. And we have a lot of uncertainties with the growth, so we have to be very conservative in how we use the money. So that looks good. I'm going to go over our local revenues. Let's look at
Ms. O'Bannon,
Yes, sir.
quick question. Is there a level that's too high? The state recommends, like you have too much in your unreserved fund balance?
To me, 3 months is too high.
Okay.
That's just me. And from training through ASBO and looking at it, and discussing these with David Smith, the executive director of ASBO, I don't think you want to get over 3 months. But what we've been able to do is take some of our excess over the 1 month and move it over, and you'll see that in a minute, to capital projects fund type to hold it for our new school. First time ever we've been able to pay as we go, and I'm going to go over that in just a second.
Okay, thank you.
This is our local funding sources, and as you can see, look at the trend. Property taxes at the top, there's our total mills, 16 mills, went from 8% increase in 2020 to a 19% increase in 2023. So it's varied from 8%, 6%, 12%, and this year from 22 to 23, 19%. So it's over $5 million increase. And if we continue to see this trend, I feel like we will because we're seeing the growth all over the county, we could, in the right market, we could leverage some of those funds if we needed to do, which we know we need to do. We just got to see what the market does. Additions to some of our schools, adding classrooms. I can't see us building another new school without a new revenue stream. However, we could do some additions and possibly float a bond, but we can't do that right now because I looked today, the federal fund rate is around 5.6%, and when we're doing that, we at least want to be 4% or lower to leverage our funds because we don't want to overextend the general operating money. So we don't want to overextend any pledged revenues to borrow money through a bond issue. But notice that 19% increase, go down to the bottom, the 10 mil match, the 14.8, our 10 mil match this year is 14.8 million. And for 2025, it will be 17.7 million. That's already been submitted to the state for their review. And so guess what that increase is? 19%. It's dollar for dollar, the percentage. Our revenue increases for property taxes, so does our match by the same percentage. And that's taken off the top, so we don't get that money that's coming back to us through the foundation program, because this comes off the top. So that's the amount we share and match to participate in the foundation program and to pay our salaries and benefits. Now, looking at sales taxes, they've been all over the place, but you can see they've ranged from a 10% increase to 17% increase, and from 21 to 22, a 23% increase. But you can see this year we're down 2 to 3%, but that, it's leveled out. And that was to be expected from years of, we used to see 3 to 6% prior to the bang with the economy several years ago, about 6 or 7 years ago. So it's leveled out. We're still holding our own there, but we're seeing that trend across the state with sales taxes. And remember, we're funded by sales taxes. In this grocery tax business, don't tell me if that keeps expanding and expanding that it is not going to impact our schools. Now, as long as it's backfilled with another revenue source at the state level, we can survive. But if that continues, more and more will be dipping into the general operations of all school districts across the state. So that's a big deal.
Ms. O'Bannon, do you think the use of the internet to do online purchasing is affecting our sales tax revenue?
It is, but it's flattening out anyway. But we don't get a share of that SSUT, so obviously it is. It's impacting it. The more that grows, the less we receive. Yes, sir. If you'll look at TVA, it increased by 25%. I don't know where that came from. I hope that comes from the county commission, but that's unusual because we've been running around 3.8 million with that, and that just goes in general fund for general operations. So we don't have our first check yet because it's for this fiscal year because it's 60 days in arrears. So we'll see what the first one looks like, and that is the same monthly payment every month of the fiscal year. So we'll know. But that was a surprise. It's up $953,000 or 25%. So let's see what, okay, I'm jumping a little bit. I'm just hopping from place to place. But let's look at the capital and maintenance. And Mr. Kazort touched on a lot of this. These are the funded capital projects from the capital plan that you approved in September. And they're shown here and on the next slide. So please note the funding sources as they are budgeted. We have the New Hope High School gym. And notice, I just want to, Mr. Witt, did he leave? I wanted to commend him for the A&T Plus money that we've received and how important that is for all school districts. And I'll share a little bit more of how important that is to continue with that for the state overages. But here you can see the $800,000 project, state A&T Plus funds, the gym HVAC, local system funds. You know all of these. I'm not going to go all of them, but you can see the state A&T Plus funds. And also the project that you approved tonight, the bid, we're going to use the A&T Plus funds for that land, for that grading bid. It was budgeted in there. It's not on here. So because it was under $2 million, way to go, Mr. Kazort, we're going to use our A&T Plus money for that and not have to dip into the monies that have been set aside for the school, which we'll show you in just a minute where we are with that. So I'm not going to go over all these, but these are when it says local system funds, that means general fund, general operations. Then we have our interior reconfiguration for PACE. That's the budget. Notice the funding source. The last project with our state PSCA bond issue, the $22 million bond issue we received from the state, is the approved project for Snyder for the control upgrades. So let's talk about the intermediate school for just a moment. Okay, I talked about the dirt, the grading, the mass grading. We're not going to touch the money in the capital projects fund for that. We're going to use our A&T plus funds, so out of general fund. So if it comes in at 40 million, let me show you this first. We have 50 million, we'll talk about that in a minute, 619, 649 set aside. And you think, wow, that's a lot of money. We budgeted 40 million. Okay, let's go back. The 40 million hasn't been bid, and we hope that's in the ballpark when it bids in May, in the spring. So you have to add another 6% for architect and engineering, so another 2.5 million. And you also have to add another 6%, because there's like 2.5% for IT infrastructure in the school, and another like 3.5% for furniture and furnishings. So that's another 6%. So if it comes in at the 40 million, the total estimated cost would be 45 million. If the bid comes in for construction at 45 million, the total project cost is 50 million. You have to consider all the furnishings. It's a lot. And so that's how some systems, I think, don't budget adequately when they're looking at their capital projects, because that part's huge. And then we pick up utilities in our regular operations from year to year to year after that. But you want to make sure you've got enough set aside in your capital projects fund to cover those areas. So let's talk about the monies that we have set aside. Again, the 1.5 million is what we have left for the remaining Snyder project. And then the system fund set aside in the capital projects fund that I've been talking to you about, it's in that fund type outside of general fund. We have 23 million in cash, and we've been investing in U.S. Treasuries, some of that. And remember how we got here. Remember how we got this 50 million. I've already touched on it. The sales tax increases over the last 6 years that we've set aside for what we didn't need for operations. Our ESSER funds have enabled us to do meet a lot of our instructional needs without pulling from general fund. And those will be going away this year in fiscal year 24. So, but we have been able to set aside local funds and pull those over. And then the A&T Plus money and the A&T funds over the last 5 years has freed up so many local funds, because we've paid all of our building insurance out of there. We've paid for several buses, and it's filled the gap for shortfalls with transportation, and that's why I wanted Mr. Witt to be here. Will you remind him how important the A&T state money is? We'll remind him that we continue with that in the future legislative sessions. It has been phenomenal. It has also helped us with our IT, our devices, and that's freed up the local money, and that's why we have this $50 million right here from those areas. But I appreciate Senator Gavan, Representative Witt, all those that have helped and contribute. It just means so much to our school system, since we're challenged with our local tax base. And it's just been instrumental in allowing us this flexibility to build a school. So
Ms.
that's
O'Bannon,
where we are with that before I go to the last slide. Yes, sir.
so the 40 million, I mean, that's an educated guess. I mean, it's not just rabbit out of a hat, 40 million. I mean,
That's correct.
based on square footage and based on capacity, previous quotes and everything. I mean, there's some.
Based on current bids that have been open, they're anywhere from $400 to $450.
Right. So we have a pretty good estimation of what it's going to cost to build that school. Okay.
I'm just trying to see, 40 to 45 million. Because I'm very conservative and want to make sure.
Right, but we shouldn't see, we probably won't see a school that's 50 million. It shouldn't cost 50 million.
Well, we would hope not. At the same time, it's based off of contractors, fairway, materials, how long it's gonna take. We don't have control over,
Right.
but based off of, the current information that we have, and the different architects that I talked to, $400 to $450 for the should go.
And
Do we save any funds on the fact that this is the same configuration of previous schools, that it's essentially, I mean, or does that in the architecture and design, or is there still the same cost associated since, it's just a new school?
It's going to be the same, because that school last was built 10 years ago, and so many codes have changed since then. We're going to use 2021 code book, so they have to go back to every spot in that facility. So electrical, mechanical, egress, fire, that part is going to be done. We should, it'll save us time because we have to do that.
Gotcha, okay,
So it should save time.
okay, gotcha, okay.
And Mr. Curry, I don't think it would ever be close to 50 million, the construction bid, but that's why we want to keep that 2.5 month surplus, or the surplus over the 1 month in general fund, so that we could take care of those furnishings and the architect and engineering costs from our general fund. I will say the 23 million in cash, we're going to move some of that over in December for like 6 months to those U.S. Treasuries, because it's earning 5.6%. And in our regular account with Pinnacle, they have been incredible. We're earning 3.35% interest. So that's really good. But we are going to move some of those after we close the year. We're going to move some of those over in December so that we can have the higher interest rate. And that's also going to help with the furnishings or land purchases or something like that we need. Other expenditure highlights. Now, this is just general fund only. We've seen a 3 to 5% increase in personnel costs, which it's in line with what we expected. For SPED and the personnel costs there, it's 13% increase from 22 to 23. Utilities are in line with what we expected. Our garbage and waste is what's been, 115% increase there. Building insurance, huge increase there. And then transportation is leveling off some. You can see, actually for 22 is when we had the big spike. So it's down slightly this year in 2023. I just wanted to, and as always, we track monthly expenses every month, and I'll be bringing you up to speed on that. And this doesn't include any ESSER funds. When you look at that bottom line, what we spend on instruction and instructional support, now this doesn't include the ESSER funds, which is primarily the category we use those in. There's some mental health expenditures there, but it's primarily all for instruction and instructional support, which is not included here. You can still see we have a large growth there from 129 million to 137 million. And that should show and tell the public where we put our money. It's in the classroom. So, I am optimistic about the new year that started October 1. I am just now stepping into it, and I know it's November 16th. But I'm actually running. Look at this. That's going to be me, because I've got a New Year's resolution to do more exercising. I don't think I can make this. But I do want to say I thank you, the board and superintendent, for your support. And we know next year will even be better. We're excited about our new school and our strategic planning that's coming up. And we just look forward to our efforts, as I've got shown here, to continue to improve for student success. Any questions? Anything else you'd like to see? At any time when I'm sending you your monthly, same thing, it just tells the whole story as to where we are, but if you want detail in any other area or category, please let me know.
Thanks, Ms. O'Bannon.
Uh-huh.
Administrative items?
Yes, sir. I recommend approval of the Madison County School, the Madison County Sheriff's Office SRO MOU updated as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on recommendation. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I recommend approval of the September 2023 fiscal year-end financial statements and payments of bills as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the recommendation. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I recommend approval of the bid as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the recommendation. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I recommend approval of the contracts for services as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the recommendation. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I recommend approval of the personnel items and addendum as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the recommendation. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I recommend approval of the supplemental contracts and discontinued contracts as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the recommendation. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I need a break. Before you go to motion to go to executive session?
That concludes our regular session. Okay. So we have an executive session, and I need a motion to go to executive session.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to go to executive session. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 We're gonna take a recess.
Take a
about
5-minute recess.
We want to get a quick photo picture with our
New leadership?
with our sheriff's office.
Or sheriff's office? Okay.
Yeah.